Hello, I'm PJ Appleton, and welcome to this Equiem audio interview, a new series of audio content where I'll be chatting to people both inside and outside Equiem about some of the trends and themes impacting the tenant experience technology space. To find out more or get in touch, visit www.getequiem.com. I hope you enjoy the interview. I can't think of a better way to start this new series than by welcoming PropTech influencer and digital strategist Antony Slumbers. Hello, Antony.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. How are you? How was your long public holiday weekend? Did you enjoy the sunshine?
It's very good. In fact, I've been actually very naughty during August. I've had an extended reading month, so I've just been working my way through a big pile of books. So,
anything you can recommend? Anything good?
Oh, quite a lot of things. There's a fantastic book called Range.
Okay.
Which is all about the new skills people are going to need in a technological world, and how paradoxically we need more human skills as the world gets more complicated. That's a very good one. But a whole load of others there. They're on my if you follow me on Twitter, they keep popping up.
Okay, all right, good recommendation there. Maybe you get a free copy off the back of that. It's a lot more highbrow than my reading anyway of the back holiday weekend. So there we are. Now. I was about to say as well, we always seem to see each other when the weather is really nice.
It's steaming.
Great. So
it's always steaming.
We need to spend more time together, clearly. But there we are. Now, do you like being called a PropTech influencer? Is that how you would describe yourself?
I suppose it's a useful shorthand, as is the term PropTech itself. I'm actually sort of in the camp of saying PropTech itself should not be a word, because it's just technology and it's just business nowadays. But whatever anyone wants to call me is fine, within reason.
Within reason, sure, yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about what you get up to in your particular role, because you do lots of different things. Can you give us a bit of an overview as to what sort of a week looks like for you?
Yes, in the very long story short, in essence, I ran a software company for 20 odd years, always working on internet technologies within commercial real estate. So for a long time, I was coding and all that sort of thing. About 5 years ago, I started writing a blog and getting more interested in delving into the future implications of technology on real estate. And what I primarily do now is my work pretty much splits into two areas. I'm doing more and more public speaking, fortunately all over the world in rather nice places. And then I do a lot of sort of board level consultation on strategy at a sort of very meta level. What is happening on planet tech, and how might that affect someone's business or their portfolio or their investments? Where should they be moving into? What should they be changing? What skill sets the company needs? Sort of very macro board level, where are we going type thing.
Sure. And in fact, for those who might not know and might not have seen the announcement, you actually joined our advisory board back in, was it March time?
It was, yes.
And what was the relationship with Equiem before? When did you first come across Equiem? Have you known them right since the beginning, or when did that start? Pretty
much from the beginning. One of the companies I was involved with, which I co-founded with Broadgate Estates, which was the property management arm of British Land, way back in 2001, was a sort of Equiem type product. We actually had a wide range of property management tools, but also what we then called community, and it's now called tenant engagement. So I actually met Gab when she came in to see us many years ago. So I've been watching from afar as someone with related interests, with overlapping worlds for quite some time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what sorts of stuff are you now helping us with? What are you kind of advising us on in particular?
It's really all to do with where is this whole world going, and what is it that's needed within the workplace to create great user experiences. I'm a huge proponent of the changing nature of the workplaces. There's a great paradox that as we get becoming more technological, an awful lot of the work we do is simply going to disappear because the machines are going to do anything that is structured, repeatable, or predictable. So pretty much McKinsey say it's half the tasks that people are paid to do around the world can be automated with currently demonstrated technology. And over the next few years, that's going to go. Now, what is going to replace it? We're actually going to find our workplaces and our businesses becoming a lot more human. And it's human skills and human capabilities and human functions that are going to become more and more important to how one stands out as a company. Now, what that means is that absolutely fundamentally, the workplace is going to change. It's going to be more complicated. It's going to need somewhere that catalyzes human skills. A historic workplace was a case of, say, you had 50 employees. What did you do? You bought 50 desks, 50 chairs, 50 computers, 50 telephones, line them up in a row, and away you go. But that's not going to work in a workplace where human ingenuity, creation, design, empathy, judgment, cognitive skills are more and more important. So we're going to need different types of spaces and a whole range of different services that are going to be needed in the workplace to create this great user experience. And it's what is interesting within the world of Equiem is you have this very human and machine type mindset, which is frankly the future of business, because the machines on their own aren't going to win. The humans on their own aren't going to win. Human plus machine is going to win, and understanding how technology can augment humans and how humans can leverage technology is actually a very sophisticated, complicated, subtle skill. And what I'm working with Gab and others on is thinking, what tools, services, features, functionalities will help people create these great spaces? And it's a combination of data, combination of analytics, and a big dose of humanity. And it's one of those things that looks very, very easy when you can do it. But sure. It is like riding a bicycle. Simple, but not when you can't do it. And so how things are going to evolve over the next 5 years or so, and what needs to change, be emphasized, de-emphasized within the business to make the greatest advantage of the changing nature of pretty much everything.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, sure. So you talked a little bit about it there, and kind of, I guess, how the workplace is changing, and it's always music to my ears thinking it is human plus tech as well. But just going all the way back to a time before prop tech, if you can imagine such a thing. How did you first kind of get involved in the property industry? And then you touched a little bit on it then in terms of how you started thinking about how technology can impact the workplace. But can you tell us a little bit about that sort of process in your own life?
Well, I have a very bizarre background, actually, because actually my degree is in history of art. And for 10 years or so, I was actually a high-end Victorian and European 19th century art dealer, which is all very bizarre. But
so
this is
a logical way.
It's a very logical way, but it's also giving away the fact that I'm not the youngest person in the world, because in 1995. I came across the internet in one of the first internet cafe in London. And I thought, oh, this looks cool. So I looked into it, and at that stage, everything you could do on the internet was actually 35 size of A4. That was it. So I thought, well, history of art. I got a trained mind. I can do that. And it struck me. And whilst I was an art dealer, as a parallel thing, funny enough, lots of art dealers in those days used to do property developments on the side. So I'd actually done quite a lot of property development, and I was thinking, well, this is perfect, really, because this is images and it's documents and it's multiple parties in multiple locations. Well, that's exactly what the internet is going to be good at. So effectively, I learned HTML, 35 sites, and carried on from there, and then for many years did the sort of web agency stuff for people like King Surgery. Did all King Surgery stuff for 10 years or so. And then beginning 2001 was when I started Vicinity with Broadgate Estates, and that brought in the property management side. So it really has been pretty much an evolution from, in terms of the web, ground zero in 1995.
Great, yeah. So you're there, almost pretty much at the start, I guess, of that sort of process. How have you seen, I guess, from Vicinity until now, or even from property 20 years ago? How have you seen the prop tech space, for want of a better word? How have you seen that kind of evolve, both in terms of kind of interest from investors, but also, I guess, latterly and more excitingly, kind of landlords and actual clients? How have you seen that space evolve?
Slowly is probably the operative word. There's always been a certain percentage of people within real estate who've got this sort of stuff instinctively. Gab's been around for a long time as well, and she got it instinctively. And you could understand that here is something that can make a big difference to people. And so you've had these sort of parallel worlds of a number of people really getting stuck in for quite a long time, but largely being ignored by the industry. I mean, frankly, we're pretty much ignored by the real estate industry till about 2010 or so. Start of mobile phone. Mobile phone is what has really transformed everything.
Yeah.
You go back to 2010, 2007, the launch of the iPhone. Nothing much happened for a couple of years. But the fact that now we have this 1980s 30 million euro supercomputer in our pocket, connected to all the world's information up in the cloud, and constant connectivity, it has fundamentally changed everything from the real estate's customer's point of view. Because nothing changes in real estate that isn't driven by a changing nature of customer demand. If customers demanded just big open floor plates with all their desks lined up, that's what they've got. That's what they got. It's not until the demand changed, then everyone got to a point of going, well, actually, this product I've got now is not just worth a little bit less. It's obsolete. No one wants it. This is the really good opportunity, I think, that's coming up now, that there's going to be an awful lot of space that frankly is just going to be obsolete unless people do something about it, because the customer demand is changing so dramatically, particularly over the last few years, that it's really got to the point where the industry has had to really get to grips with this and go, well, okay, well, if I don't start to understand the changing nature of demand, I'm not going to get 5% less rent. I'm going to get 50% less, or I'm not even going to be able to let my space for a long time. And of course, fundamentally, economic drivers. If the customer has to be provided with what they want, and they very clearly want a different type of product because their world's changing. All of this stuff, all these technologies affecting us, of course, is affecting all our customers. So their behaviour is changing, and their requirements are changing. So I think within PropTech now, we're sort of at a stage where there's clearly a great deal of interest. There's a lot of money going into it, but frankly, I still think we're pretty much in the foothills. So you can start deploying money, but it's money being deployed in the right way. Do enough technology people understand real estate, and do enough real estate people understand technology? And then, as I said, do technology people understand the human side understand the technological side? It's getting a lot more complicated. There's clearly a big customer demand there. So over the next 3 years, I think you're going to find a massive change in how the real estate industry thinks of real estate. And fundamentally, it's changing from an industry that historically has sold a product to one that is delivering a service. And it's a completely different type of world, a different type of company, different skills, operationally, financially, culturally. Being a service company is very different to being a product company. And what I think you're going to find is that the better companies are really going to get to grips with this, are really going to go all in understanding what is needed. They're going to change their companies to employ different types of people with different skills and use those skills in a different way. And now is the time I think people are really going to start to pull away from the pack. That to some extent, a rising tide lifts all boats. But I think the people that really get to grips with this and really understand and create and curate great places to work are going to jump quite considerably away from the pack. Because not least of all, once you're really engaging with your customer, of course you're learning. In the technology industry, the first thing you learn in the technology industry is, what do we do? Well, we build, measure, learn. Build, measure, learn. We build something, measure if it's worked, learn from that, adapt it. Which is why in technology everything is always in beta, because we build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn. In the real estate industry, we tend to stop at build. Mm-hmm. Historically, we stopped at build. Even when we built great buildings with great workplaces, we then go off onto the next project. We don't learn anything. But that's the product world. In the service world, we're going to be creating these great workplaces, and then we're going to be measuring them, managing them, optimizing from them, learning from the way people are using them, learning more about the people who do use the spaces. What do they need? What are their wants, needs, and desires? And you get a bit of a flywheel effect, because once you create these great spaces and you're pulling in the data and you're learning quantitatively and qualitatively about your customer, you can start to build spaces that are increasingly better than anything anyone else can do. And because you're learning, you get better all the time. That's what happens in technology. It's what happens in social networks. So people learn about the users and then can provide a better service, and the better service gets more customers and all that sort of thing. Well, in real estate, we're sort of I can't remember who came up with the phrase, but someone came up with a rather good phrase that actually this is like a physical social network. Mm-hmm. But if you think of some of these big buildings have thousands of people in there, and they're doing lots of things, and they're there all the time, and they do have wants, they do have needs, they do have desires, and they want to be productive. Because fundamentally, at the end of this, all these new spaces that people are creating, yes, they are good for the individual, but fundamentally, there is a very economic motive behind these. If you're employing lots of these expensive people in expensive space, there's a great incentive to enable them to be as productive as they can possibly be. So they're really, it's not a fluffy extra providing all these services. It's actually a bottom line imperative that if I want all these people that I'm paying all this money for to be as good as they can possibly be, I need to put them in the spaces that provide the services they need, which is where the whole space as a service thing comes from. It's not just about procuring space on demand for a day or an hour or something. It's providing spaces that provide the services that people need as and when they need them, which is what you get in these agile workplaces. So the opportunity to really start to differentiate your space as opposed to other space, which historically has not been the case in real estate. Mm-hmm. It's been, well, here's a BCO spec building and there's another BCO spec building. What's the difference? Location, that's it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's product world. In the service thing, here's a space that we know is being operated in this manner by these operators, and you can expect this sort of service from them. And there's one that's not. So do I buy an Audi or do I buy a whatever? No, I'm going to buy. If you think about it like cars, mm-hmm. So you have, if you like, Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. They have a very distinct brand around the user experience of that car. Mm-hmm. A BMW is different to a Merc, different to an Audi. Fundamentally, underneath, they're combustion engines. They ain't that different. They do the same speed, same acceleration, whatever. But the user experience of them is different. Now, people are going to create user experiences that suit the occupiers in a much more granular way, because the way lawyers want to be is different to tech people, is different to fashion people, is different to music people. And I think what you're going to find is that the smart people are going to understand the jobs to be done, as Clayton Christensen says, of its customers and provide the right spaces for them. So I can see it very likely that you're going to see brands built for particular industries or work processes. So there might be places that are particularly suited for marketing or for design, or they might be places suited for fashion or music or whatever. But they're very tailored, thoughtful, human-centric, but very technologically smart underneath spaces. And they're going to be so much better than a drab AN other workspace, that they're going to generate more money for you. They're going to lead to happier customers who probably will use less space than they do now. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think this is going to be a truism of everything. We're actually all going to use less of everything, but it's going to be better.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with retail. There's going to be a lot less retail, but the shops are going to be much, much better. So where we might have used, 5,000 square feet historically, we might find we use 3, and just stick a naught on the end if you want to scale this up. But you're probably going to use 25 to 40% less space, but it's going to be better space, more efficiently used, much nicer to use, and it's pretty much a win-win. It's going to be more expensive for the end users, but they're going to get something much better, and as they're going to take less space at a gross level, they're probably going to spend the same money. Landlord's going to make money. Operators are going to make money. Do this right, and the incentives of everyone are in the same direction. And the user, the operator, and the landlord, their incentives have to be aligned. That we're all heading in the same direction, and everyone wins. It's not a confrontational, or it shouldn't be. None of this will really work in a confrontational manner. It has to be, let's align the incentives. Everyone's got to win, and combined, we can actually win quite big.
Yeah. Okay. So in this sort of new environment, because that's really what it is, isn't it? We at Equiem, we often talk about the fact that real estate has gone from being B2B, so your standards of floor plates, natural lights, etc., filter coffee, all that stuff, to being this kind of new B2C model. That is an enormous sea change, I guess, for the property industry and landlords that typically haven't had to necessarily adapt or be that creative with their space or provide this sort of service. What do you think are some of the sort of main challenges for the industry in terms of making that transition? Because it is a big one, isn't it? It's not going to happen overnight. But what do you think are the main challenges involved?
The challenges are considerable, because, as I said, you are moving from a product industry to a service industry. So a landlord at the moment, a traditional landlord, is in no way set up to have the capabilities to provide these types of spaces. Now, the big question is, what does a landlord then do? Well, you could just outsource it all, if you like, which is effectively you phone up Adam Newman and you say, Mr. WeWork, will you take my building? That's fine.
20 minutes in, I thought we mentioned WeWork.
Yeah, I know. Took a long time. You could do that, but you're actually leaving a lot of money on the table. As it's going to pan out, I think we're finding this is going to happen less and less because the risk profiles are all wrong. But essentially, the creation and curation of these types of spaces is complicated. It's different types of skills. In one of my presentations, I have a big slide that says the real estate industry is no longer about real estate, and has an asterisk there because everyone gets upset. You say that real estate's not long about real estate. Well, of course, it's about real estate. It's about everything you know now. But everything you know now is necessary, but not sufficient for the modern world, for the modern workplace. So, if you think what is needed to create and curate a great workplace, well, you need all the real estate skills you've ever had. But then you need data. You need first of all you need IoT skills. You need to know what sort of network, what data should you be collecting on what basis and whatever. Then you need to understand that data. So you need data analytics. You need to know you've got all this data, but what's it telling you? And you need to know the right questions. Picasso has this great phrase that computers are useless. They can only give you answers. It's for the humans to create the questions. Then you need workplace specialists. Then you need HR specialists. Then you need hospitality specialists. These are really 6 different industries at the moment, all big industries, all doing different things for that one end consumer, all with incentives in the wrong way. This stuff has to be packaged and put together. And as I said earlier, when it's done well, it looks really easy, but it's really complicated because you need lots of different skills, which is the sort of thing we're working on, and you're doing with Equiem. It's raising skills across lots of different capabilities, and then working out how they can all be a flywheel to everything else. So everything connected to everything else, and everything makes everything better. But it's complicated. So I think the workplace is going to be a lot more complicated than it was before. There's going to be a lot more differentiation between those who can do it and those who can't do it, and that's going to lead, I think, to spaces that can generate a lot more revenue, have a lot more customer satisfaction, and become great differentiators for a landlord. But it's hard stuff. We're not gonna get there immediately. But you have to get skin in the game now, because you have to build, measure, learn. You can't wait until someone's worked this all out and in 5 years' time say, that's fine, I'll just get the checkbook out and I'll buy it. You won't be able to, because you wouldn't have built up the corporate memory and the corporate knowledge, the unwritten knowledge, to be able to do it. So getting really involved, thinking hard about what is it about my space that's going to attract the best people to pay me the most money and to be happy paying me the most money.
So the rewards, you're saying actually will be good for those who get it right. Actually, there's income to be made, there's money to be made. Penultimate question. You're a busy man. How can technology like ours, like Equiem's, help landlords in this transition? To what extent are you encouraged, when you look at technology, that this could be a big solution in terms of helping space as a service and that transition?
I think there's a really important thing which is often forgotten in tenant engagement type situations. So you see a presentation of this service can do X, Y, Z, and the content and all the imagery looks good. The offerings look good, and everything's well written and punctuated and whatever. The reality is, when you're running a building, someone has to produce all this content. To create great content that inspires your customers is difficult, and this is one of the things that I personally think is one of the strongest things about Equiem is their whole content delivery system. I'm not going to call it just a content management system, because it's more than that, because it enables someone who's not a marketing, events, hospitality type specialist to actually create very high quality material on an ongoing basis. And most people can't. That tends to fall down. Back in our old vicinity days, you used to get buildings where the system worked really well, but it was because the individual person was particularly good at running the system. But what you have enables more people to create higher quality content on an ongoing basis. So there's that side of things, which, as I say, is really, really important, because it's so easy to put all this stuff into a building and then you find you haven't got any content, no one looks at it, and it's all just a waste of money. And then increasingly is going to be the whole data side of understanding what works, what doesn't work, what do people like, what do they not like, what type of survey do they respond to, what type of offer do they like, what services, amenities do they want. This stuff builds up over time, and with Equiem, you can put all this information in on a constant, non-intrusive basis, that it builds up this whole data layer, which is going back to build, measure, learn. You're building something, you're learning how people use it, what they're using, what they're not using, and then you iterate on that. And that's really the point. You have to be, Equiem helps you be a learning building. You know, you have learning companies, the sort of company that's constantly learning. Well, a building has to learn as well, because it has to understand how it works, how it's being used, and who's using it. And you put all of those together, that's what you need to create spaces that, going back to it, because I'm going to emphasize the point, this is to generate higher revenue, higher satisfaction, happy landlords, happy customers, everyone actually paying more, but being happy to pay more because you're doing something that they haven't had before. And it's hard, and that's where I think Equiem comes in. What is absolutely crucial, I think, as part of the learning operation, the landlord needs to learn alongside you. The management team needs to learn alongside you. To an extent, the customer learns alongside you. This is not a speak at world. This is not a talk at people. This is a talk with people world. And it's that engagement, which is a lot harder than it looks, but is super powerful if you can nail it.
Antony, thank you very much for coming in. That was genuinely fascinating. Always great to catch up and chat. And if people want to get in touch with you or follow you on social media or anything like that, what are the details?
I'm very active on Twitter at Antony Slumbers without an H. And my website is antonyslumbers.com, and all my blog posts and everything there. I'm also on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. There you go. Head there if you want to get in touch with Antony or find out a little bit more about what he's up to. And thanks very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. Do reach out to us if you've got any comments or questions. You can contact me at pj.appleton@getequiem.com if you want to get in touch and give us feedback. But we hope that you'll tune in again next time. And thanks very much for listening.